Hello and one and all, guys. How you all doing? So, due to the coronavirus, I want to do some ranking sort of favorite videos. And yes, guys, if you guys haven't seen my my most recent update video, please do so, where I talk about coronavirus and what I want to do on this channel while the coronavirus is happening. So guys, I've decided to do my first one, and that is to rank my favourite film decades that we have had so far. So I want to rank, there's like 6 I want to rank, so yeah. So I haven't seen every decade for movies, so as always guys, for when I do rankings, this is my opinion. You know, my opinion's my opinion, and your opinion is your opinion. So let's all have a great discussion why we agree and disagree. And no need for hateful comments, or they'll be taken off immediately. So without any messing about, let's talk about my favorite movies of my favorite movie decades. I have 6 to talk about. So coming at number 6, we have the 1960s decade. Now this I've not seen many movies from this decade. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of great other movies that came out this decade, the 60s decade. I mean, if I've seen many other decades, then this would probably be higher, but I don't know. But again, you've got some great movies that have came out in that decade, such as Psycho, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the original Planet of the Apes, 2001: A Space Odyssey. You got the first 6 James Bond films, and you've got the Disney classic Mary Poppins and all. I mean, for those who are wanting to get into classic movies, the 60s decade is definitely a great example to do so, and those who wants to get into film directing, the 60s is a great decade. There's a lot of movies I love in there, such as Psycho, which I really want to review sometime. So if you guys haven't seen all my reviews for the first 6 Bond films that came out this decade, go check them out. They're on my channel. From Dr. No to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the 60s Bond films. So guys, that I think the 60s is going great so far. It's got some great classics, like ones that I've mentioned. So I don't really have much to say about the 60s. But the 60s must have been great times for movies. So that's number 6, the 60s. Alright, so coming at number 5, we have a decade that people might be expecting to be a bit higher, but but it's number 5 anyway. But I loved all these decades, guys. I mean, all these decades are great. They all have great movies. I mean, there's nothing wrong with each of them. I mean, of course they've got bad movies and everything, because no movie's perfect, but coming at number 5, we have the 2000s decade. Yes, the 2000s decade was such a great decade for movies. You know, you had movies such as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight. You've gotten movies such excuse me. You've got movies such as Spider-Man 2. You've got movies such as Collateral, the first 6 Harry Potter movies. You've got Memento. You've got Unbreakable. You've also got other movies like Casino Royale. And yeah, this is definitely a great decade for movies. Started off the 21st century nicely with these great movies. Oh, and American Psycho as well from 2000. Great movie. Don't just stare at it. Eat it. Yeah. But yeah, 2000s, great decade, as great movies. And yeah, I love the 2000s, so number 5. Alright, coming at number 4 is another decade that you might expect higher, but still, I still love all these decades. And coming at number 4, we have the 1970s. Yes, the 1970s was a fantastic decade. Got so many great movies, even though I've not seen all of them. But I'm going to mention the top of my head. You got movies such as The Godfather 1 and 2, Taxi Driver, the first Rocky film, the original Star Wars, Alien. You've got Superman the movie. You've got A Clockwork Orange. You've got other great movies that have came out the 70s decade. Oh, Mighty Morphin and the Holy Grail. That's a great British comedy. I love that. What you gonna do? Bleed on me? Touched by a scratch. Yeah. 70s has got great movies. Oh, and Jaws. Oh my God, Jaws. Yeah, Jaws is amazing as well. How in the world did I forget Jaws? Yeah. Yeah, and you've got Duel as well, which is Duel, whatever. Spielberg's first movie he directed. And of course you have Taxi Driver, Talking to Me. Who else are you talking to? Talking to me? Yeah. 70s has got great film quilts as well. So, yes, 70s, amazing decade. It's my number 4. Alright, coming at number 3. Again, guys, you may be expecting this to be like number 2 or number 1. But it's in the top 3 anyway. And it's still an incredible decade. All these decades, as I said, are amazing. Coming at number 3, we have the 1990s. Yeah, the 1990s. Wow, what a decade full of movies. You've got, it's a great year for action movies, decade for action movies, sorry. You've got Terminator 2 Judgment Day, you've got The Matrix, Speed, you've got Point Break, you've got Bad Boys, even though it's not a great movie, but it's still a fun action movie to watch from that decade. The Rock with Sean Connery, you've got GoldenEye, you've got, and other movies as well. You got like Goodfellas. You have other great movies as well, such as the original Toy Story 1 and 2. You've got movies like Casino. You've got Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Jackie Brown. Yes, Royale with cheese. Yes, lots of movies have great quilts. Yeah, Pulp Fiction being probably my favourite from that decade. But yes, I can talk all day about the 90s movies. It's one of my favourite film decades, and it's my third favourite film decade, the 1990s. Alright, coming at number 2, I never thought this would be at the spot. Some people might think the 2000s and other decades are better than this, because the previous decades before this decade had more classic movies. But guys, when you look later in the future years, you'll look at these movies will become classics. And so far they are instant classics, which is a modern classic, technically. But when the years come by, you'll recognise that these movies from the 2010s decade will become classics. Speaking of my number 2 favourite film decade is the 2010s. Yes, 2010s. Oh my god, I fucking love this decade. But, you have amazing movies. You've got Inception, of course, which kicked off the decade so nicely with great movies. I mean, that was like the start for great movies, along with Toy Story 3. Um, you've got other great movies like Django Unchained. You've got 2014, which is probably the best year from that decade. You know, you've got Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, my personal favourite from that one. You've got Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Edge of Tomorrow, Whiplash, X-Men Days of Future Past, Guardians of the Galaxy, John Wick, the Lego Movie, How to Train Your Dragon 2, many more. And other great years as well, 2017, that had Blade Runner 2049, War for the Planet of the Apes, Logan, Baby Driver, you know, Skyfall as well. Skyfall's amazing. 1917. Yeah. Oh my god, the more I think about 1917, the more I love it. Especially with certain elements that you might not think would have done the one-take shots. But Sam Mendes nailed it. Other great movies from that decade, you've got the Marvel movies, of course. You've got the Avengers, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Captain America Civil War, Thor Ragnarok, and other superhero movies. Of course, you've got The Dark Knight Rises, and you've got Joker, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So yeah, 2010's decade. Yeah, what an amazing decade. There's a great bunch of movies as well, and it's my second favourite film decade. And coming at number 1, my favourite film decade of all time. And yes, guys, this is kind of predictable to have it at number 1. And plus, many people out there would consider this to be their favourite film decade. But yeah, this decade just has way too many good movies. And yes, my number 1 favourite film decade of all time is the 1980s. Yeah, I know it's predictable. Call me an 80s fanboy, but I'm not really. But yeah, I just love good times, okay? So yes, the 1980s just has so many good movies. You've got The Empire Strikes Back, The Shining, you've got the original Blade Runner, you've got E.T., you've got Raiders of the Lost Ark, you've got the original Terminator, the original Back to the Future, the original Ghostbusters, you've got the original Predator, you've got Aliens, you have got, you've got a lot of great movies right here. Of course, you've got the Indiana Jones trilogy is all released in the 80s as well. So, but yes, would love to go back in time and travel to the 80s. Not just for so I have the funds. I'm kidding, guys. I would go back in time if I had a DeLorean to the 80s to watch any great movies. Not just great movies from the 80s, but do anything. Go to big music concerts released in the 80s, like the Live Aid Queen concert. If I ever had a DeLorean or a time machine, I would go back in time to the 80s. The 80s has, in my opinion, the best movies. Of course, you've got some other great action movies as well, such as you've got the original Die Hard, you've got the original Terminator, Predator, Aliens, Lethal Weapon, First Blood. And yes, guys, the 1980s is my number 1 favourite film decade. Alrighty, guys, that was my list of my favourite movie decades. Comment down below. Let me know what are your favourite movie decades. Or let me know below in the comments. How do you rank these decades? Let's have a great discussion in the comments below. And as always, guys, comment, like, subscribe. All the social media links will be in the description below. Don't forget to click the notification bell before you leave. And guys, I will have hopefully some classic reviews, some other reviews, and some other ranking lists that I want to talk about while this coronavirus is happening. So yeah. And guys, until my next video, whichever it's going to be, I shall see you all then, and peace.